I think one thing that's really important for people to remember is that with police, for example, police are, one of our first responders. Some would say they are the first responder. That over the average 20-year career, a police officer will see between 180 and 200 critical incidents. Critical incidents being defined as tragedy, destruction, trauma, death, that kind of thing. Over an 80-year lifespan, however, the average person who is not a police officer will see 5. So you compare a couple hundred critical incidents to 5, you start to get an appreciation for how first responders can be exposed to far more trauma and far more limbic response. And I point here because that's where our emotional center is in the brain. And when that happens, what you end up with is often some psychological effects, but also some physiological effects. And I think, we loosely say first responders do a lot of the hard work, the dirty work that we don't want to, but what we don't appreciate is the depth to which that stuff affects them. They're not just carrying it in the form of stress, built up in their bodies and in their minds, but it comes out in the home, short tempers with children, arguments with spouses, shorter careers perhaps, and then of course, shorter lives as well. Not only does it take a physiological effect on the body, insofar as it deteriorates you a lot faster because you got too much cortisol pumping through your system that is harmful to your body, but also when you see so much death and destruction, you catch a case of nihilism sometimes, and you realize, maybe I'm not making an impact, and you start questioning whether it's all worthwhile, and then that leads to suicidal ideation, and perhaps potentially to suicide. And suicides are up across most first responder demographics, including emergency room doctors. And so we want to be mindful of that. And I think that if I can help that hit home to some of the folks out there who are compassionate to those professions, maybe it'll inspire some policy change. Again, we're not getting into the middle of policy debates, but I think it's worth noting that insurance policies don't always cover extensive care. Culturally, it's really off-putting for members of those professions to go seek help because they don't want to be perceived as, so-called weak or inferior or inefficient or unfit for duty. So we need to change a lot of the culture around first response and what it's like to go seek help, because at the end of the day, if you're in one of those professions and you're struggling mentally, you become a liability to the rest of your peer colleagues. And it's much better to go get help for that and take a little bit of time off than it is to create more problems where they may not need to exist if you just go seek some care. So I think that's probably the biggest takeaway that I've had through this process, is learning just how impactful those jobs are upon the psyches and the physiology of the individuals who perform them. And I think that's what I want the audience to know as well.